In the depths of the Cold War, survival wasn't an abstract idea or a paranoid hobby. It was a calculation people made every single day. Families built fallout shelters in their backyards. Governments printed pamphlets showing everyday citizens how to survive a nuclear blast. Entire industries rose around radiation fears, air filtration systems, and reinforced concrete bunkers. But while the world scrambled to build thick walls and sealed chambers, a small group of engineers and survival experts quietly uncovered a method so simple and so effective that it outperformed many of the heavy, expensive bunkers people were sinking fortunes into. It didn't rely on steel. It didn't rely on generators. It relied on something far older than civilization itself: the steady, dependable equilibrium of the Earth. This wasn't a fringe idea or a historical footnote. It was a breakthrough in survival engineering that still surpasses most modern bunker designs today. And before someone sinks money into digging a concrete vault or filling a basement with filters, it is worth understanding how Cold War scientists discovered that a properly built earth-covered trench could outperform most sealed bunkers, and how that same principle is still one of the best tools for modern prep. Off-grid homesteaders and anyone who wants to build an energy-efficient shelter that lasts. During the 1950s, and 60 segundos as tensions rose and nuclear testing escalated. Engineers from the US Office of Civil Defense and Soviet research institutes ran hundreds of experiments on blast waves, radiation shielding, and underground heat retention. What they found was astonishingly consistent. The Earth itself was the most reliable protective material available. Compacted soil absorbed radiation more efficiently than concrete and moderated heat far better than anything humans could easily build. From that research emerged one of the most surprisingly effective fallout shelter designs of the era: the Kearney Fallout Shelter, made famous by Crescent H. Kearney's book, Nuclear War Survival Skills. It wasn't a bunker of steel and concrete. It was a semi-open trench covered with logs, plastic sheeting, and 2 to 3 feet of earth. And in tests after tests, radiation levels inside these earth-covered trenches dropped to less than 1/10 of the outside exposure. It wasn't just theory, it was documented, measured, and repeatedly verified. The physics were beautifully simple. Just 6 inches of packed earth could cut incoming gamma radiation nearly in half. At a couple feet more, an exposure dropped by almost 90%. Pile on even more, and the shielding was comparable to thick concrete at a fraction of the cost. And without the complexities of building a sealed structure. But the real genius behind these shelters wasn't just radiation protection, it was the way they naturally handled airflow and temperature. One of the biggest mistakes modern bunker builders still make is focusing on strength instead of livability. A sealed bunker may look formidable, but without reliable airflow, it becomes a trap, overheating, accumulating carbon dioxide, and turning uninhabitable within hours. Cold War engineers knew this early on and leaned into physics instead of machinery. They used buried air tubes, what we now call earth tubes, or ground-coupled ventilation, to draw and cool fresh air from outside while pushing out warm, stale air from vents at the top of the shelter. These tubes, buried 6 to 8 feet underground, naturally regulated air temperature. In summer, incoming air was cooled by the soil. In winter, it was warmed. No electricity, no fans, no filters, just passive, sustainable airflow driven by the slight temperature differences inside and outside the shelter. These ideas traveled far beyond fallout protection. Soviet engineers applied them to underground observation posts. American homesteaders used them for root cellars and storm shelters. And today, anyone can use the same principle by burying 25 to 30 feet of pipe 6 feet underground and letting nature provide a steady, breathable airflow into a partially buried shelter. Modern bunker designs often resemble submarines, airtight, dependent on power, and designed with complex machinery. But during the Cold War, engineers couldn't assume any of that would remain functional in a crisis. Their earth-covered trench shelters had to work with minimal tools and no electricity. And research from Oak Ridge National Laboratory in the 1960s confirmed that these simple structures were astonishingly effective. Properly built, they stayed within comfortable temperature ranges, in extreme heat or cold. And because they weren't sealed, they didn't suffer from the humidity and oxygen issues that plagued airtight bunkers. Building one today would be straightforward. You'd dig a trench 3 to 4 feet deep, wide enough to sleep and store supplies. Lay logs, planks, or corrugated metal across the top. Add plastic or tarp for waterproofing, then bury it all under 2 to 3 feet of soil. Add a buried intake pipe at one end and a small exhaust vent at the other. And suddenly you have a shelter that can stay habitable for long periods without generators, without filters, and without dependency on fragile systems. And beyond survival use, this same design is the backbone of countless modern homestead structures. Earth-covered root cellars that stay cool year-round. Storm shelters that require no electricity to remain livable. Even modern off-grid homes that use this natural insulation to drastically reduce the need for heating and air conditioning. The soil does the work. Air flows naturally. The space stays stable, quiet, and secure. The Cold War produced many things: fear, tension, division booted. Also produced a generation of problem solvers who understood that nature's constants were often superior to human inventions. Instead of trying to overpower the environment with machinery, they leaned into the physics of the land itself, the steady temperature of the earth, the natural movement of air, and the shielding effect of compacted soil. And the lesson they left behind is still relevant. As modern preppers invest in expensive sealed shelters with complicated systems, the truth remains unchanged. An earth-integrated structure offers better long-term protection than any steel vault. It's cheaper, easier to build, self-sustaining, and proven under the harshest conditions humans have ever simulated. That's why, when the conversation turns to bunkers, the smarter question isn't what materials to buy it, as how to use the land itself as the primary shield. The Cold War taught us that survival doesn't come from steel or technology. It comes from understanding the quiet, dependable genius of natural design. This forgotten knowledge may be one of the most valuable legacies of that era. The earth-sheltered, naturally ventilated trench remains one of the most efficient, sustainable, and protective shelter systems ever devised. It costs almost nothing. It requires no advanced materials, and it will continue functioning long after systems fail, power grids collapse, or technology becomes useless. So if you're serious about survival, don't begin with walls or machinery. Begin with the ground beneath your feet. The Cold War generation proved that the planet itself is the strongest shield we will ever have. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Cold War ingenuity and survival engineering, share it with other history lovers and survivalists. Keep exploring the forgotten techniques that still hold the power to keep us alive today.